Hi everyone, I'm Lou Sims and welcome to my channel. Ever wondered how to start your art journal pages? Today I'm sharing a simple yet effective idea that will inspire your creativity, I'm hoping. So let's dive in. Okay, one of the ideas I want to share with you today is composition per se, but what I mean by composition is where do we start laying out our design. Now I'm working in an A4 art journal, but this idea would work exactly the same in a smaller journal. All you would need to do is make your scrap piece of paper smaller. So I've taken a scrap piece of paper, and what I want to do is I'm just going to roughly fold it in half, and I'm going to do a circle-ish. It doesn't have to be precise. If you want yours to be more precise, you could die cut. So now what that gives me is it gives me either I can work in that area here for my art journal page, and I can build out so then I have lots of white space around the side, or alternatively I can take this and use it as a mask and then have all my ink around the outside, and inside then is left relatively clear. What I'm going to try and do, if time allows in the video, is show you that how an art journal page can look just using an aperture. So we could make this bigger or smaller, and also using this as my starting point with a mask. If you want to stick it down, by all means use like a repositional to stick it down, or just hold it in place. Go with what works for you. So what I thought we'd do first of all is actually look at it and see it from this perspective, and then we can blend it out from there. So I'm going to work there, and I've just grabbed a few different distress oxides that I want to work with just to make up the quick background. It can be any colours you like. Go with colours if you're trying out a new technique or idea that work for you. So I'm just going to bring in some of the actual colours. I'm not going for perfect blending. So I'm going to start with my lighter colour first. So if I go then a slightly darker colour. Now we will have a harsh line there, but we will blend that out. And I'm just going to bring in a slightly darker colour. I'm not bothered. It's, as I said, it's a visual clue. So we've actually got that as our starting point. And now I want to build on this. Now we could make it darker in places. We could add a little bit of shadowing. So if I get the green, let's put some there, and I could decide, I could move the circle as well, or ish. I'm going to put a little bit darker in places. If I pick some up on my blending brush would be a good idea. I can build it up and go slightly darker in different areas. Let's do, as I've started up here, let's do a darker one up here. Sorry if my hands are in the way, I'll show you what I mean in a moment. Right, it's because I haven't stuck the card down. So I can do, so if I take that away now, I've got some darker areas to work on, and you can see we've got quite hard lines, and I'm not worried about that because we're going to blend them out and do other things with them. Okay, I'm just going to bring in now a slightly greenier blue, which is a contrast, and I'm just going to, I want to put that in places because this is going to stand out just a little bit more than the other tonal greens I chose. Right, so we've got that now building up like this, and that's now my focal starting point. So I've now got this in my page, and it does look a little bit random, a little bit weird, but we're going to now build out from there and blend it out a little bit more. So I'm going to use a mix of different stencils. This is a Shady Designs box trio, and I'm just going to build up a little bit of layering going on, and I'm going to start with the colours that I had before. So I'm just going to bring them in. I'm only going to do a little bit of the stenciling, and I can bring it in there and just do a little bit of an overlap there. And all I'm doing now is just slightly extending the design, and we've got it going there. And then what I'll just do, says me now doing the rule of 3. I'm just going to put a little bit here and just go out a little bit, as you can see, so we could start touching the pages. Well, not touching the pages, going towards the bottom, towards the bottom a little bit more and extending the design. So we've got that now building up on there. You can use as many or as little stencils. I could go over with the same stencil in a different colour and it would create, you know, something else. I'm going to use another stencil now, but I'm going to stick to the same colour ink, because this is a background, so everything, if we work in the same colours, everything then becomes, you know, blends into one another. I'm trying to think of the words, I apologise. So now I've got that very subtly going over the top. I'm going to do the same here, and it is very, very, very subtle, because I'm using the same colour, so you don't notice it. If I'd gone for a darker colour, it would have stood out more, but I'm just blending in the edges a little bit more. Let's just put a bit more here, down there. And then now all I'm looking at is where I can join. So there's a gap here, so I'm just going to take the stencil and make it look like those join onto each other. Going to do the same here. So I'm just looking at extending the design. I'm going to actually do a darker one. It's all I'm doing this time around is I'm just pressing a little bit harder on my blending brush to put a little bit more ink down in places. So, and slowly build up. So it's just looking at what I've got here and how I want it to work out. Julia McNeil from JMC Designs always says that this, you know, this process is where it suddenly starts to look, you know, you've just got to go with it. You know, it'll look messy before it looks better. So as I said, I'm just pressing a little bit harder on my blending brush just so you can see a little bit more of those details. And then I'm going to put one here in the middle a bit. And one of the good things about a stencil is you can pick and choose or use the whole lot. So I've gradually built that design up there. And this time round, I'm not putting much, I'm going to only put in a little bit of the blue. So you can see now, so the blue, we can actually see where that works together, and then we'll go over the bit of the blue here. So it softens the edge a bit more. We've got some blue there. So I'm sticking to where I put the original peacock feathers down and just keeping it in place. So very quickly we've created a very quick background. Now we could do just a little bit more there, and depending on how much pressure you put on your blending brush will obviously put down the amount of ink. And I've got a little bit there, and I'm not going to do very much more than that. So we've then got that building up just like that, and that is the starting point. Now if certain elements like here are a little bit messy, you could take your blending brushes or your sponges, whatever you prefer to use, and very, very lightly go over and spread that little bit of ink out. I'm not, like I said, I'm not worried about the harsh lines around here, but you could very, very softly do that. You could do a contrast, and I could go, I'm not added any more ink, but I'm going to go with the peacock feathers, which is slightly darker, and I'm just using whatever's left on the blending brush to blend that out. And it is very, very, very subtle, and it doesn't appear as if I've done anything, but there is actually a soft little bit of ink there. So we've now built up over that design, and we're going to work on the design, and I'm going to use the same elements for each one. So I'm just going to leave that page, and then I'm going to pop over to my other page. Now on my other page, we just had this circle as our starting point, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to hold mine down, stick your downward tape, whatever you would prefer to use. So if we go back to how we were doing it originally, I started off with a very, very light colour. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more art journaling inspiration that's already on my channel and for the new videos coming shortly. I'm going to bring in the peacock feathers, and we've got that. And look, peacock, I'm going to build the peacock feathers up because obviously it's a stronger colour. Okay, so now I've got that building up as my design, and I'm going to do exactly the same as I did before. Use the same stencils and build up my design. So I'm just looking around here. But this time around here, I'm going to join those two bits together to make it look as if they were part of one. Can you see? So it goes down as one, and we'll just put a little bit more there. So I've put the same stencils and we've got a completely different look. So if we bring in the hanging garden stencil, I'm going to go over again. Keep lifting your stencil up and just see if there's little pieces that you want to add. So now where I've gone to the edge of the page here, it will go with my other design. The stencil that I use with the peacock feathers, I'm going to do exactly as I did before. So very quickly, I've still got this is keeping white as my central place, but everything else now is getting slightly darker. I can blend it out again like I did before. So if I want to put a little bit more darker in places, I'm sticking to the peacock feathers, and all I'm going to do is just, well, use the ink that's on my brush and blend out and create some other areas around the outside to keep the inside looking slightly softer and the outside looking darker. Right, I'm going to zoom out now so you can see both beside each other. It's exactly the same inks and exactly the same stencils, and we can create completely two different looks just by taking a scrap piece of paper and tearing the circle out. We've given ourselves two art journal ideas. If we wanted to join the two pages together to make it seem as one, I'm looking at areas where I could join. So I've got a gap here, so I could take the stencil and my blending brush. I'm not going to add any more ink. I'm just going to do it so it goes down the crease and suddenly those bits join together. I'm going to put a little bit of a darker bit here. So this is where it's worth lifting the stencil up. And now I've got like a design that's running through, and the two pages are becoming linked a little bit more. I'm not going to join the blue. I could join the blue down here, or I could have a bigger patch of blue. You know, that's horses for courses, but I'm just going to try and keep to where I am. So that is a really quick idea using a scrap piece of paper to very, very quickly build up a background. So we've got it like that. Now the next stage is adding all your different stamping and all the different things you want to add from there. So I'm going to go off, tidy up the inks, and I'm going to start now bringing in a few stamps to build up these actual background layers. Right, I'm going to use a stamp set, Shady Designs, Today Is Your Day, and I want to build up now the pattern and the designs. And I'm looking at how I can create different focal points from here. Now this is my favorite part because it's a bit more where you faff and you take a little bit of time to see where you want to place things. But actually, sometimes what I do is I do set myself a timer, and I will actually only say to myself, right, you've got 10 minutes, put it down quickly, just go for it. Because I know I can just faff too long. Right, so we'll put that on there. As you can see, this is what I'm saying about it. I've got work underneath here, many layers under the rest of my journal. So I'm just rocking the stamp. I wouldn't normally do so, but again, if it doesn't stamp as how you want it to stamp your design out and stick it on top. So I've got that there, and then this time around I am going to do 3s, and I'm going to put nearer the page, so it's going to go a little bit into that page there. So to do that, so I can get it in place, I actually take it off my stamp block. Now I know there's ink on there, so when you put it down, you got to be mindful of that. But I'm just eyeballing that design there, and I'm going to put the stamp down onto my page. I'm not going to touch it, and then I'm just going to bring my block and put the stamp onto the block. Now if it picks up a little bit of ink, as you can see there, that's fine. I can go over it, or I will add to it. Now the alternative way you could do it, if you didn't want to do it the way I'm doing it, because that's, you're worried about where it would stamp and you've got overstamping, which I've got a bit of, is you could literally just take your stamp and just put it right onto the edge of your block to start with, and then just offer it up to the place you want to work in. But I've now got this going, and I can now start building onto this and creating different avenues for it to work at. I'm going to stick to the same stamp set, and I'm just now going to build up my design a little bit more. If you find it easier, stamp all your designs out and cut them out, and then place them in on your journal page to see where you want to stamp next. So I'm just tying in different things together. I'm just going to put a rough mask in place. I know these art journal pages aren't quite finished yet, but if you do try this technique, please do let me know and share your creations with me. All my links to my social media should be found in the description box below. Now in the next stage, this is just my composition of my layout, and it looks a bit jumbled and it looks a bit messy because there's no real colour to it, whether I just take a micron pen and colour in black, or I add little pops of colour here and there. I haven't decided how I'm going to colour it, so what I'm going to do is just pause the video and just step away for 5 minutes and have a think about the colouring I want to do. Right, I've taken that 5-minute breather, and I've had a think about where I want to go next. I've decided I am going to add some colour. I'm going to use my Personal Impressions woodless watercolour pencils to begin with, and just do what I consider the leaves, the greenery as such. And then I can look back again and see if I want to add some more pops of colour in, with a pink, a purple, a blue, or even colour out some of the elements with my oxides that help me create the background. Now I will probably fast forward this part on the video because obviously there's quite a bit of a page to colour and I get totally in the zone. So talking and colouring is not one of my strongest things because I just get in the zone and that's it, I'm off. So I'm going to make a start now. laid down my initial colours of green and I like the way it's blending in. I'm feeling that I want to add more green in some of the areas and only have little pockets of colour. So I'm going to build up some other greens but make them slightly different tones, slightly darker or lighter, and then see from there whether I need a pop of colour. Right, I've done my colouring and I've kept it very much working together and tonally blues and greens. There is a little pop of yellow, but that I think works because of the other colours on the page. I'm just going to let it dry, and the next really is about how we want to finish it and what we want to do with the page next. And that becomes now personal preference and however much more detail you want to add to your final piece. Right, so now it's at the final stage for me, which is adding all the little finishing touches. So I'm going to bring in the stencil that I was using, and what I have done is I've, from the same stamp set, just stamped out some other images and cut them out, so I can play around with some composition to see if I need it or don't need it. So what I want to do is I'm just going to add in a little bit with a black micron pen, some extra added details in places. Okay, I've added my different dots and dashes and colouring ins everywhere. Now I'm just going to finish off the pages, and this is where you can bring in a bit of absolutely everything. I know paper dolls aren't everybody's, but I do love a paper doll. I think they're just a nice quick finishing touch. When I do my art journal pages, I just put a little bit of glue on to start with, just for a positioning, just in case I want to add anything behind. And then it's about placing all the other bits. Sorry, I was just looking for my I'm going to actually leave it as there for now. I do think it needs some extra journaling in different places, but I haven't quite decided on what words I want to use and where I want to put them. So taking one idea, we can create completely different looks on an art journaling page, or we can do a double page spread and everything still works together. I hope that gave you a little bit of a starting point with your art journals when you don't know where to start one day. Thanks ever so much for your time and company today. And watch this space. I have a series of different YouTube videos coming out about art journaling and different ideas that we can try together to make our art journaling as fun as possible, but also as achievable as possible. Until next time, Thanks very much. Take care.